Ray Sefo, the fighter.
And why did he? I know it's crazy too. So when did he do this interview?
Just recently, that's what it says, and that's what they told me.
But that doesn't make any sense, right?
I don't understand it.
Is he just trying to be relevant in the media or what? Because
Joining me right now is a K-1 legend, one of the founders of WSOF, and he is currently sitting as the president of PFL, Ray Sefo. I'm honored to be speaking to you today. How you doing?
good. Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
You had a long history in Asia competing. When's the last time you've done any kind of media with Korean media?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's been a while. I think the last time I was there doing Korean media was when I fought Ruslan Karayev out there. I want to say at least 10 years ago now, or 8 years ago.
Wow, that's a quite a long time,
Yeah.
of you actually being in Asia. When was the last time you been in? Was it 10 years ago?
No, actually, yeah, I think the last time I was in Korea might have been longer. Actually, it should have been, I think, maybe 12 years ago. But the last time I was in Japan was, I want to say, 6 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a while. I need to head over that side of the world again.
Well, in the future, I'm pretty sure you'll be over here somewhere. All right, now you currently reside in Las Vegas. You coach fighters at Extreme Couture. You work for PFL. Why did you decide to settle in America? And not go back to Australia and New Zealand?
It's funny because I came out in '93, and a lot of people don't know, but most of my K-1 career, I've actually lived in the U.S. I've been here for 25 years now.
Wow.
And, I was going back and forth to New Zealand, but I think it was 2000. No, it was, I think, 96. I decided to, stay for good. And so, I go home every now and then, but and a trip is also due. I think it's been a while. It's got to be at least 8 years since the last time I was down there.
You're competing at the time where Japan was basically dominating the combat sports market. Did you expect the U.S. to become so big in the industry?
No, I didn't. But it didn't surprise me because, when you look at, America is such a massive marketing machine. And when you look at, NBA, NFL, baseball, you name it, anything like that. You're talking about major sports, but also sports that's worth billions and billions of dollars. You know what I mean? And so I knew at some point it was going to happen, but I didn't know when or how big it was going to become. K1 broke in here for a little bit, and MMA kind of took off a little bit. And MMA really hasn't, it wasn't until, Dana White and Lorenzo, and the Fachitas, should I say, bought it and then just added rules to it and changed the whole landscape, changed the whole game, which became more watchable for the public at large. You know what I mean? Because back in the day, MMA was anything goes. and so to see it evolve and grow so much, it's just amazing.
You had a long career, and then all of a sudden, it almost came out of nowhere. You co-founded WSOF. Was that something that had been in the works for a while for you to get into the MMA game?
I had been thinking about it for a while. So WSOF started back in 2012. I think it was 2008 or 2009. I had, it was going back and forth in my head exactly. And part of that, too, was because I knew that my career was coming to an end. And also, once K1 filed bankruptcy, owing everybody millions of dollars, I And when I say everybody, I mean the top 8 guys. And that was myself, Vanessa Hoos, Peter Ertz, and so on. And I knew that this was something this was where, how some people they just go to work, you know what I mean? And I get it, they do it because it's the way of living, but it's not really what they want to do or they're meant to do, you know what I mean? And I've always been a person that I needed to find what that was for me, but I 100% knew I didn't want to leave the martial arts world. I didn't want to just start something different, because I've heard so many interviews from fighters before my time and during my time, and even today where, the question is, do you miss fighting? And a lot of them do, a lot of them miss the games. Hence the reason why a lot of them come back for kind of like a second run at it. And with so much time out, and also the fact that as human beings, we grow older, we don't get any younger. And so eventually this kind of sport, this kind of sport actually, it's only the fittest and young athletes. It's that kind of game, So going back to the question is that I just knew was my line of work. I just knew that staying within martial arts was what I was meant to do. And so, one day I'm doing an interview and everything started to click. And again, like I said, going back 2-3 years prior to starting WSOF, it always was in here, but I didn't really kind of like put 100% focus on it because I was still competing and I still had a few things going on. But once that K-1 filed bankruptcy, and then I knew it was just time for me to do it, and something clicked that night. So I called up my buddy and we talked about it, and within a week we had offices, and off we went, and here we are.
So you turned a negative into a positive then.
That's right. And that's the thing. You can never just kind of sit around and wait and dwell on something. You know what I mean? Like, because some people, it becomes a downfall after a while. And, for me, I wasn't that person. I'm the type of guy that constantly try to push those boundaries and continually see what's next and see what's, the next best thing in terms of options of how to move forward. Again, like I said, this is something that I knew I was meant to do full time for the rest of my life.
Definitely evolution, that's what it's about.
Right. Absolutely right. I mean, look at the evolution of the sport right now. Yeah. It went from boxing, kickboxing to MMA. And MMA is its own art where it's just amazing how big MMA has become.
It is. Now, with K-1, do they still owe you money?
Yep.
You're waiting for the check, huh?
Yeah. Waiting for a check that will never come.
Yeah. Now, everybody, in Korea, they're very interested in PFL because they did sign their first Korean fighter. You know, what makes the Korean market interesting for you?
Koreans are fighters, it's just, it's built in you guys' DNA. There's so many martial arts. I mean, Taekwondo is like one of the first ones that kind of sticks out. That's a massive Korean art. You know what I mean? And then, of course, everything else, mixed martial arts, kickboxing, and so on and so on. But you guys, Koreans are fighters. And it's just, it's built into you guys' DNA, just like it is built into mine. You know what I mean? And so I think, finding the best talent that's available out there, it just helps us grow, but also it helps us to be in that neck of the woods.
Who came up with the idea of turning PFL into this league system, just like, any other sport?
When back in the day, back in the WSOF, it was the idea of me, coming from my own experiences with K-1 and whatnot. So K-1, you would fight throughout the year, and of course you got to keep winning to qualify for the top 16 guys. And then within that top 16, the top 8, the top 16 will fight off against each other, and the winning 8 then became the 8 finalists in the Grand Prix, where you fought 3 times in one night. So I thought, taking that kind of system and adding the way American sports is as a league, like the NFL, like baseball and whatnot, like soccer, if you will, and apply it to PFL, to that system. Now, we didn't do that with WSOF because there was a few things that didn't come through. And then when we actually, we had new owners come in, and they loved that idea. They loved the idea of doing a league like that. And so, it was just a matter of time. And then when it was all put together, it just fell in place, and that's how PFL League started.
Do you think this new format, it's not even a new format, you're taking the old school format and introducing it to the new school audience, and how big of an impact do you think this will have on a global market?
I think listen, I mean, this kind of format is applied to most of the sports around the world. So everybody understands it, right? And so I think it's just a matter of time, listen, we're only 2 years old and we're on ESPN already. And that's, and that's a massive statement to make. So, which makes myself and our team proud. But the league format it's funny because I talked to a manager last year, and he says, Ray, it's just an incredible, amazing idea. Why hasn't somebody ever thought of this? I said, well, I guess because I'm a former fighter myself, and because of the way K-1 was, I just knew we had to do something different to be different from everybody else, if you will, right? And that's the big difference is that PFL is not really a promotion. It's a MMA league.
Of course you have the UFC and Bellator and One Championship, and they've been around for a while. You guys are pretty new to the game, PFL, particularly. Do you think you're gaining ground quickly with this system?
I think we are, because everybody I've talked to very positive about it. Again, when back in the day when we first started, there were a few people that didn't think it was going to work. And I did an interview, I think it was ESPN Radio, not long after that, and I said, listen, the reason why it didn't work before was because there was no rules back in the day. Like if you look at UFC when it first started, sure, they had this kind of very similar format, but there was no rules to it back then. I think it was IFL that tried to do it, but they tried to do it as teams, right? It's a one-man sport. Sure, you have a team, but when that bell rings, it's you and your opponent across the cage. You know what I mean? So I just, I was 100% confident that it was going to work. And after our first 3 shows, I think it was, I had phone calls from people that were really surprised that the way it looked, the way it worked, and that was really, really a rewarding feeling because a lot of people doubted, and then what I thought the way it was going to come together was exactly how it came together. And so, and of course, the team believed in it as well. And so it's the only way it would work.
You signed Sungbin Jo. He's the first Korean fighter for the promotion. What are your thoughts on him, and what attracted you to him most?
I think he's a gamer. He comes to fight, and the fact that he's a good-looking guy, he's somewhat popular in Korea. I think that people are going to levitate to him, especially the Korean people. I think they're going to levitate towards him because he is, a true fighter, and the fact that he has everything else that comes with it, movie star looks. He's outspoken a little bit, so it's he has that kind of charisma, and I think it's a great pairing for him and us together.
Definitely. Everything you said, it's true about him. He is he does have the look. He is marketable, and he can fight. He can finish fights, which is something that you need in this game, right?
100%. I mean, listen, if you can talk all you want, but if you can't fight and you can't really finish people, then it doesn't really mean much. You can look as good as as a movie star, but that doesn't carry you through the battles that you're going to have. And with Sungbin Jo, he has all that, and I think it's a beginning of a great relationship, not only for him and us, but also for us and the Korean fans.
How many more Korean fighters are you expecting to sign? Are you keeping a close eye on the market, or are you just going to test it out with him first?
No, absolutely. I'm keeping an eye. I mean, I'm keeping an eye close to, close with the market going on there. And the same all over the world. There are some other regions that we'd like to break into. For example, India, but yeah, pretty much the whole world. And it's just finding those, diamond in the rough. And Sungbin Jo is one of those guys.
Are there any particular Korean fighters that you could kind of reveal to us that maybe you're interested in?
There's what do you call it? There's a couple more guys, but they're just young. They're not ready for the season yet, and so we're definitely keeping an eye on those guys, and then as they grow and as they develop. And one of the things that we also do is the IQS, the International Qualifying Series. And so some of those guys will probably end up on that. You know what I mean? Once we get that rolled out, obviously we have to slow down a little bit because of this pandemic. And once things starts to become normal again, all the IQS would roll out again and start doing a lot more of those around the world.
Are you planning on working with a regional promotion in Korea to do those qualifying series?
Exactly. So there's I believe that we got an email last week from a few people that conversation is going to be going back and forth, and we will see. But like I said, it's just I think the year 2021 is going to bring a different look. Obviously, by then, we will be somewhat used to what's going on. I mean, 2020 has been a absolutely shocker of a year. Not only, I mean, for the whole world at large. And so I think a lot of things have been, has taken a back step because of that. And so we have to wait until 2021, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that a lot of this thing will slow down and people can get back to normal lives.
Definitely. Now, with all that being said, man, I want to turn back the clock, and a lot of the fans in Korea, they want to talk about you and K-1. You competed in Korea from 2006 to 2008, around that time. And,
Right.
what were some of the memorable moments for you in Korea?
I think because I went to Korea first, one of the K-1 shows before I fought there. I think it might have been 8 months to a year before I actually fought there. But my first time when I went to Korea, I went as a guest, signing autographs and whatnot. And I was the most memorable moments was just when I'm there signing autographs and pictures and just looking around. There was just, from a 5-year-old kid or a 3-year-old kid to a 70-year-old man. You know what I mean? Like the spectrum of fans was just incredible. And I mean, it didn't feel right for me to kind of like, signing an autograph for a 70-plus-year-old man because, I didn't feel, I felt like, and I don't want to say disrespect, but I felt like, what am I doing this? It should be the other way around kind of thing, just because of that respect I have for the elderly folks. But it was just an amazing feeling just to, and that was my first time in Korea. So then I got to get out there and try the food, and man, there's a Korean place here in Vegas that I go to every now and then. My family and I go to, and it's just great food, great barbecue.
Yeah. Oh, 2008 K-1 World Grand Prix final. You took on Hongman Choi. That was one of the craziest fights right out there in that tournament. What did you think of him as a fighter?
I thought for such a big man, he's quite mobile. He's 7'2", 370 pounds. That's a big man, I mean, he put Jerome down. He put Badahari down. Like most people think that he's not. Most people will look at him and think, he wouldn't be that skillful or he wouldn't be that mobile, but he was. So I knew going into fight him, I knew that I still had to, stay sharp and do my thing. And I think I beat him after the third round. Yeah.
What did you think about the overall performance? Especially fighting a guy that was like 10 feet tall to most people.
Right. For me, like I just love challenges. When people say it's impossible, I say, well, if you can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? I love challenges, and I've always looked at life like that. If that guy can do it, I can do it. And that's the competitive part of my, who I am, and so knowing that I was facing this giant. I just thought it was a challenge. I thought it was great. I was so excited about it. Same when I fought Bob Sapp. He's a big guy, muscly, strong. And to me, it was just, another challenge.
Yeah. Where does he rank, though, amongst, you fought the two of the monsters of that era, which is Bob Sapp and Hongman Choi. Where do they rank amongst all the fights?
Listen, they never, well, I'm trying to remember. No, Hongman Choi, I don't think Hongman Choi made the top 8, but I know but Bob did, and mainly because of, beating Ernesto. But they were big guys, There was so many guys with a lot more skills, a lot more stamina, a lot more everything really other than size. So, it was difficult for them to kind of really climb that ladder to be known as like a top eight guy. But also, they're guys that you don't take lightly because they're big guys who can actually throw punches and throw kicks. And I mean, the everyday guy can't just walk up on those guys because they have skills for big guys, and they have power. And so if I was a guy that didn't know how to fight, I wouldn't be starting to fight with those two.
Now, the showdown with Mark Hunt, it's a historical matchup. Looking back at that clash, is this still surprising to you how that fight played out?
100%. 100%. The game plan was to go out there and be, I knew I was quicker than Mark, but and so I thought I would make him miss and catch him, and keep moving and change angles and whatnot. But that game plan went out the door once Mark came out like a bull. That game plan went out the door, and I was like, okay, well, I guess we're doing this in the center of the ring then. And it was good. I mean, listen, it's funny though because that fight bonded Mark and I, and I have a lot more love and respect for Mark because he's such a true warrior. And I mean, look at an amazing career that he's had as well. You know what I mean? But yeah, that fight bonded Mark and I, and of course, it can only do that because just like anything in the fight game, or sorry, any fight that you go into, you leave a piece of yourself in there. And I think he took a piece of me and I took a piece of him, and there's nothing but love and respect there. And so, like right through his career, I've always supported him and from a distance, and just every now and then I wish him good luck and all that kind of wishes.
K-1, it was a legendary organization. Many fans are disappointed that it has never been recreated. What
Right.
are the emotions like when you think about those days, the K-1 days?
Well, the sad thing about that is a few people have actually sent me texts on social media and whatnot, and really kind of saying exactly what I said back in the day when K-1 was starting to recruit new talent or young talent. And they had asked me what I thought about, the future of where that's going to be. And just like some fans that have actually sent me texts, they're absolutely right. They said that in terms of kickboxing, there won't be another era like K-1. And for years, I've said the same thing about boxing. There'll never be another era like when Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, back in the day, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, you know what I mean? Like all these legends. And once that era was gone from boxing, you'll get, a few guys here and there, and that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? If you look at Tyson's era, Henry Vander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, and that's pretty much it, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Sure, there was a few other great fighters here and there, like Floyd, Mayweather and whatnot, but there wasn't like 10, 12 guys that was at the elite of elite. You know what I mean? And so yeah, no, it's sad that that happened, but I don't know if that would happen again. I hope it does, but I'm, you know, I won't hold my breath.
What are your theories behind the collapse of K-1?
It's not a theory; it's a fact. There was just, it was in the media a lot where the people at the top didn't pay their taxes, um, and that was, and then I don't know what was going on, but it almost seems like they were trying to fight that, and which then became more public, and eventually, the Japanese people are very conservative, just like the Korean people, but they're also have a lot of pride, and so eventually that kind of in terms of television deals and sponsors and all that, there was so much of a negative media, if you will, that K-1 started losing sponsors and whatnot, and eventually, that was their demise, and which is unfortunate because it could have been done in a way that once it was that became public that millions of dollars was owed, it should have been paid and done with, and and I think K-1 still be here today, but it is what it is, and I wasn't part of the inside works, if you will, and so absolutely, it was sad to see it fall apart like that.
Yeah, I had to ask you, because you can't believe everything in the media, you know that nowadays also
Right,
it's
right,
even
right.
worse.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to get into this sensitive topic. A lot of the Korean fans, they saw this interview with a guy that you fought in 2005 in K-1 Heroes. Actually, I think it was an MMA fight. Min-Soo Kim. Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So he did an
Yes,
interview in
it was my
Korea.
first MMA fight.
Yeah, he did an interview in Korea recently, and he was asked about the fight with you, and he
Right.
said that he felt that you were slippery in that fight. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember that situation? Do you remember that? Did you have any interactions with him after the fight?
No. Well, one, he was knocked out, so that didn't happen.
Hmm.
But what did he mean by slippery?
He said like when he was in the fight, he felt like you were slippery. You know what I mean? I guess that he was accusing you of being slippery. Like greasing or whatever. And that's why it's a sensitive topic, because that's the people in
Oh,
Korea are wondering about
that's
that.
well. First of all, he's I mean, we started sweating right away, so I don't know if that was what he was referring to, but that's funny because that he should have said something, not only to the referee or to the officials, but I mean I'm trying to remember if the referee, I mean the umpire, I mean the referee, greased us by the ring or at the back before we walked out, like right before we walked out. So I mean, but that was the only time we were, grease was put on us. But I don't know what he meant by that.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's
And
one of the questions.
yeah, that's weird that he was. Well, listen, he lost the fight really bad, so I feel sorry for him. But I mean, to kind of make that kind of excuses is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And then he had a gi on, so how could you know if I was? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But yeah, no. Anyway, the only grease that was put on me was by the referee or the officials, should I say?
All right. Now, Ray Seffel, the fighter.
And why did he? I know it's crazy too. So when did he do this interview?
Just recently. That's what it says, and that's what they told me.
But that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, it's like why did he wait this long to say anything
and that
about
fight was
the fight?
what? It's got to be at least 15 years
It's
ago.
15 years ago. Yeah, it's like more than 15 years ago.
Right. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I don't know.
Is he just trying to be relevant in the media or what? Because
possibly because I haven't heard from him for a long time.
Yeah. Either that or I hit him too hard that he's actually lost some brain cells. But hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's the fight game.
Right.
You know. Now, Ray Seffel, the fighter, is he completely retired? You know, we know that you haven't competed in a long time, but could something bring you back? Because Mike Tyson he's coming back too. You know what I mean? Let's think about that.
What's that?
Mike Tyson's coming back pretty soon too.
It's funny because I actually got an email from France. One of the promoters contacted. No, it was via social media, I believe it was. And what is now October? I think they reached out to me. I want to say July, August, I think, for a match because this guy is trying to promote a big K-1 show he called it the Legends Final Fight or something like that, and that's in January, end of January, February, I think it is. But listen, I'm still in the gym 6 days a week, and I still spar 3 days a week. Never say never, put it that way.
Okay. Keep the door slightly open.
Yeah, I never said never. Now, if I wasn't in the gym like the way I am and training and still sparring, 100%, it's a no. You know what I mean? But I'm still in the gym, not only coaching, but also sparring the team and training and whatnot. So never say never, right? But it has to be right timing and everything because I'm so busy. So things all got to kind of align so that it can work. But as of right now, 100% I'm retired.
Okay. Like a lot of Korean fighters, they'll be watching this interview because they're interested in the PFL. They're interested in just you. You're a legend of the sport, of K-1, of kickboxing, of just combat sports. If they wanted to come to Vegas and get some guidance from you, is the door open at the gym?
100%. Any fighter from Korea that wants to come and pick my brain or come to the gym and work out with some of our guys, you're welcome anytime.
All right. The
Signature is open to anybody to come and train.
All right. The last thing is a message to the Korean fans, that are they just want to hear from you. They haven't heard from you for a long time. What would you have to say to them?
Well, first of all, to all the Korean fans, thank you so much. I mean, this is the opportunity to say thank you to all of you, not only for the love and support, but also when I was in Korea, there were so many people that just came up and gave me a hug and took a photo and signed autographs. I mean, I loved it there. And I love the Korean people. They've always been good to me, and so a massive thank you to all of you. And of course, listen, PFL is starting again in 2021. So Something Joe is going to be, one of the PFL stars. So tune in to support him as well, and stay in touch.